Hello, this is the screencast for, when is it, 9th of May. Been a couple of weeks since the last diary. Not too much progress visually because I've been doing lots of other stuff. I'll take you through anyway. So I think the only visual stuff I've done is I've been working on a bit of the adding more components to the car and stuff. I can now basically have a thing I call a cosmetic, which is like in this example, it's like a flexible aerial. I need to attach some models to it so you can see it better, but you can just about see it there in the black debug drawer. You can attach basically any there you go, it goes, any cosmetic to any body part and it'll fly off, and so I'm pretty happy with what I've got. You can also see I've got stuff like the engine you can attach now. I've got that on a reasonably rigid weld. I'm reasonably happy now with the physics stuff, apart from one job I need to do. I need to do a guy with 2 arms and 2 legs instead of 1 arm and 1 leg. I want him to look a bit more realistic. And since the last time I've attached a few little box geometry bits around, so rather than just the wireframe by itself. So that's all I've done there. It's not an awful lot. What else I've done? I've wrapped the Box2D API, which might sound like a bit of a waste of time, but it's actually been really useful because Box2D uses like handles which are effectively pointers. When I've been processing all the joints and stuff and deleting stuff and making them break apart, I needed a central point to push all that through, so that if I say deleted a joint which is holding 2 bodies together, I wouldn't reference it accidentally in some other part of the code. So basically I've abstracted the handle mechanism on Box2D and I've put some sanity checks in as well in the API, and that's actually caught a couple of bugs, so that's really cool. So Box2D now is really cool. I've also spent some money on the App Store, not the App Store, the Asset Store. I picked up where are we? There we are. I picked up NGUI, which is a pretty good GUI system apparently, because the standard Unity one's a bit rubbish. I think the main thing with NGUI is it does like auto atlasing. It'll import, then the current version will import TTF fonts, put them on the same atlas as your other textures. So it basically does everything. It's just like auto atlaser. Everything happens in one draw call. Quite a nice little widget package. So yeah, I'm just started playing around with that a bit. And the other one I've got, which I'm going to talk about a bit more, is Playmaker, which it seems has a reputation of like, if you can't program, buy Playmaker and you can write games. But what Playmaker is, it's fantastic. If you can't program, it's an extensible finite state machine. So you can basically attach a finite state machine as a component to any object and fire events off and do transitions and do actions in each state. You can also extend it with your own actions if you want. So it's really easy to integrate it with your own scripts or your own systems. So what I've been doing, I've started using GameMaker to control my main game flow and me kind of coarse-grained game flow inside the scenes. So you can see here I've got this little boot state, which the boot scene, sorry. So the boot scene is there to bring up all your global systems, check everything's fine, and then move on and trigger off the intro anims or whatever you want to do with it. So I've got a thing called a Bootstrap, which I'll talk about in a bit. I've got a game controller, which is a persistent object that will be around even between scene switches. And this is the main coordinating thing, which will pass between the main menu and the in-game, and if you pause the game, that'll be defined in here. So it's that real top level flow of the game. So I can show you that running. So this is the FSM running here. Oop. So boot happens really quick. I flew through there. It's doing some logos, which is a little thing I knocked up. Then this logo scene, when that's finished, it'll fire an event end scene. And that then takes you to the main menu. I've just got a couple of NGUI little things I'm playing with. So it's nice to get a kind of real high level view of where the game is and defining what the flow is. And then what I've got inside each scene, inside the I'll just do the so the logo scene. This is the one where all those blocks are falling that you saw. That's just something I'm just playing with. So there's a scene controller in here, and this is basically scripting what's happening with those blocks. So I'm letting them settle. I'm pushing them off. I'm putting some new ones on. And each of these states has a little pause or some actions to add some torque to a rigid body, or just really easy to knock stuff together. Then when the last one comes, there's wait for 2 seconds, then the finishing event is end scene. So end scene triggers this transition. So this finite state machine then invokes a method. I've had to do a little script to join the finite state machines together, which I'm not sure. It didn't seem to do it without me putting this little script in. So this script is it just sends an event to the game controller, which is that global one, and the method name is end scene. So this state here is what triggers. If I go back to the boot, is what triggers this state machine to end the scene and the logos, and then that'll push through to the main menu. So it's kind of easy to coordinate stuff. So the only weird bit is that this game controller only actually exists in the boot scene. If you look in the logos scene, it doesn't exist. That's because the boot scene, when this does load next levels, it's got don't destroy unload tagged. So this state machine will be persistent. As long as you start the game from the boot scene, the game controller is active. Which means that you can just go to any scene and just run it, and it'll work fine. You can test it, do whatever, but that global state machine won't be active, which is cool, because if you're just testing a single scene, that's what you want. If you do want to test the game as a whole, you've got to switch to the boot scene and then run it, and then you get the full game flow, and you can see what's happening. You can see there the game controller is active even though we're in the logos scene, and the scene controller's there. Boom, there we are. And this moved on to the next scene called main menu, which doesn't actually have anything in apart from a little bit of UI. So some interesting things about that. Yeah, you can extend the this state machine playmaker with custom events, custom actions, although there's a shed load of them already in there. If I look at this logos thing, if I select that, so basically if I say select this, push page 1 off, so this is pushing those first line of blocks to come off. So while this state is active, playmaker is running these actions. Now you can either have a one-off action, which is kind of on entry of the state, or you can have an every frame action where it's persistent and it keeps happening until that state is deactivated. So this just applies a torque to a physics object, which makes it roll away. This is another torque one, and this one in the middle, this is basically wait 2 seconds and then trigger this event, which will leave that state. Yeah. Then you can open the action browser, and there's a load of actions what are in there. So you can hook into a lot of the default Unity objects like models, materials, physics, logic. You really can. You can actually do quite a lot without having to touch your own scripts if you wanted to. Or you can invoke a method on one of your scripts and fire that. You can do events. Trigger event, collision event, broadcast events, send event by name, send event to FSM. Look at that. Yeah, I'll have a look at that. Maybe I won't need my little custom script. So that's cool. What else? Bootstrap. Yeah, the Bootstrap object. The thing I was looking at was how to have a persistent object which is always around in every scene, but which doesn't get rebuilt as you transition between scenes. So it's kind of like a singleton object. So you can have, so if you look in here, I've got a bootstrap in the boot scene. I've got a bootstrap in the logos scene. I haven't got a bootstrap in there, but it needs one. So what? Oop. So what the bootstrap does, it brings up the systems, any kind of game managers. So But what it does is, if you're transitioning between scenes and a new Bootstrap comes in, it doesn't recreate itself, it detects it, and it just doesn't bring up the systems again because they've already been brought up. It might be easier if I put the script up for this. So Bootstrap, right? So this is aimed at programmers, but so it's a singleton, so it's got a static instance of itself. This game controller is the game controller FSM, just so it can message when the Bootstrap's complete, and it basically, so it comes in on the first instance. Instance is nil. You can bring up any systems you want. I'm just doing my Box2D manager. Yeah, sets the instance. Don't destroy unload, so it's persistence. Bring up any systems that you need, and then trigger that the game is booted and fall out. So in the instance of this, so that would have happened here in the boot scene. So when this transition is triggered and it loads the new scene logos, the logos also has a Bootstrap object. So what that does is, when that Bootstrap object gets instantiated, this comes in. Of course, the static instance isn't null at that point because it's already been initialized. So this, if fails, it falls through to the else. Object destroy game object. That destroys the game object which contains this Bootstrap component. So it's kind of like self. That makes sure that you don't have two Bootstrap objects active in any scene at any time. But the consequence of this is that if I do just start the game at the logos scene, this Bootstrap comes along and it still brings up all the systems. You know, so it's a persistent manager, but something persistent between scenes, which is present in every scene, but there's only ever one instance of it, even when you transition between scenes. So that was quite cool. That was quite interesting to do. Yeah, this is my little. Yeah, if you're this is an example of sending an event to a finite state machine. You can, if the finite state machine is inside the same scene as you can do it through a global event. That's all done. But if it's not even in the same scene as you, if it's like that game controller, find the game object, get the component, send event. Event's just a string, so trigger enough FSM transitions from your own script is really easy. I think that's about it for this week, really. I need to get that guy sorted with 2 arms and legs. I'm just gonna get a little game flow going with a little debug UI, build some more assets for it. So the plan is to boot the game. You can pick which car you want to drive. You can pick which track you want to go on. You can have a little play. And once I'm happy with that, I will start implementing some more proper design, really. Yeah, what I do need to do, I need to work out my texture atlases for me levels, and build some actual geometry to populate the tracks with, which is going to be a lot of mainly work in Blender, which will be a change. So yeah, it's all good. I'll see you next time.